I had no idea until I published my last video that AC/DC fans had become such gatekeepers. So I've been a fan of this band since I was 12 or 13 years old, 1983, 1984. That's when I was introduced to them. So they hadn't played live in 6 or 8 years. I watched some of their videos from their show in Germany, you know, as a longtime fan, and I was really astounded by the comments. You don't have any right to comment on this band because you're not a real fan. People were really upset that I did not know the relationship off the top of my head of who Stevie Young was, and he was a nephew and not a brother. I'm sure I knew that at one time, but guess what? I'm an adult. I forgot. You don't have to be able to recite the Young family tree to have an opinion on AC/DC's music. Whether he had Malcolm Young's real guitar or not, everybody needed to point that out. That's fine. I'm sure you guys all watched the same Scott Ian video, so therefore you are experts and you are bigger fans than me. I had one guy call me a millennial. I'm 53 effing years old, dude. I'm going to do some gatekeeping of my own. So I'm going to say that unless you sat in your room after high school in the mid-'80s with this book and your cheap $150 guitar and taught yourself how to play by listening to AC/DC songs, that you are not a true fan. Sorry, you're not a true fan. Unless you learned how to play the open chords, G, C, and D, and switch back and forth by struggling through You Shook Me All Night Long, you're not a real fan. Unless an AC/DC song was the first song that you ever learned the solo to, and again, it was You Shook Me All Night Long, sorry, not a real fan. You know, back in my day, I couldn't just look up on the internet what the words were, and they weren't printed on the album, so I had to sit there and try to decipher them on my own, and I wrote them out. This is what I thought were the lyrics to Highway to Hell. You can't read them, you don't need to. Some of them are right, and some of them are wrong. Here's Beat Around the Bush. There you go. If you didn't do that sort of shit, you're not a real fan. If you don't own Let There Be Rock on vinyl, you're not a real fan. If you don't own Fly on the Wall on vinyl, I don't think you can count yourself as a real AC/DC fan. I'll tell you what, if you can't explain to me all the weird permutations in the chronology of their first several albums in Australia, the United States, and Europe, and if you don't own the Australian version of TNT, not a real fan. If you still have the sleeve to your Highway to Hell LP, you're not a fan. You better own For Those About to Rock We Salute You on vinyl. Oh, and you better have rescued it from some crappy apartment that you lived in that flooded, or else you're not really a fan. Sorry. I bet all of you own Blow Up Your Video on vinyl, right? Right? Because that's what a real fan would have. What about Flick of the Switch? I bet most of you can't even name 2 or 3 songs off of Flick of the Switch, let alone play them, let alone have learned how to play them and already forgotten them. You're not a real fan. I have forgotten more about AC/DC than most of you will ever know. You had to have liked the band long enough to have had to buy most of their albums in 2 or 3 different forms. Cassette, CD, vinyl, whatever. So you better have that. You better have some of these weird box set things that came out and then went away. Oh, here's my other version of Highway to Hell. Got it on CD too. There's Ball Breaker. That album sucks. I own that one. Who Made Who? Used to have this on cassette. Bolts. Yeah. You guys all have that one, right? Soundtrack from the Let There Be Rock movie. Everybody's got it, right? This book came with an audio tape because, again, it was back in the days before all of you losers could access the internet and have somebody show you a close-up of their fingers playing something so you could figure out how to play it. So you had to listen, and you had to look at the tab and look at the notes and try to figure out what Angus Young was playing. Was it difficult? Yeah. Yeah, it was. Come on. I first saw them live in 1986. They seemed ancient to me at the time. It was on the Who Made Who tour. I saw them a couple times after that, and I stopped going to see them because guess what? Life happened. I got a life. There were other kinds of music to listen to. Grunge came out. That's my generation's music. It doesn't mean that I don't still have a deep tenderness and affection and admiration for AC/DC's music, but they fossilized at about the intellectual level of a 13 or 14-year-old, and they play the same show over and over again. It's not that it's not good. It's not that it's not fun, but it's not really creative anymore. Doesn't mean I don't like it, but I'm entitled to my opinion. Your distinctions between real fans and fake fans and who's allowed to comment and who is not are total garbage, and you need to take your gatekeeping and move on down the road. If I have something to say about AC/DC, I am darn well going to say it, and I have... There's not even a right to say it. That's such a stupid thing to say. You know what? If I knew absolutely nothing about them, I could still comment, but the fact is that I have probably forgotten more about AC/DC than most of you people have ever known and ever will know. Do I make mistakes? Yeah. Does that mean that I have no business commenting on the band? Fuck no. Grow up. Jeez. Silly internet.